Happening, guys? So this is the second episode for the Bangalore Music and Production Podcast. I hope you guys are doing well. And yes, if you're a music producer, if you want to know more about music production, we're going to sit and talk and discuss. I'm going to get guests over. That's how the podcast is going to be. We're going to talk about music and production and everything related to the Bangalore scene. So this time I'm getting over Kaushik, and I asked him whether he'd want to be on the podcast. He was like, "Yeah, bro, let's fucking go." And I'm excited because who doesn't want to talk about electronic music production? And I want to ask Kaushik about his journey. And yeah, it's going to be fun. Stick around, watch the entire episode if you want to just know what goes on behind his process and how he understands and attacks music production and stuff like that. So it's going to be fun. I'm doing something new here. Pitch in, chime in. If you want to be part of the podcast, send me a DM. Let's get you on. Without much further ado, right? Kaushik for you guys.
What's up?
Like, what is happening, Kaushik?
What's up? What's up? How are you?
I'm good, bro. I want to just dive right in. Let's
Go
talk
for
about
it.
podcasts. Like, what do you think about podcasts, and like, what's the state? What's running on the top of your head about around podcasts?
Well, I think it's pretty niche as of right now because I don't
Yeah,
see a lot of people doing this kind of thing, especially for music production.
yeah, right.
It's pretty cool that you're doing this. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I do it out of passion, bro. So just like I didn't have it. I don't necessarily remember listening to podcasts around music production.
yeah, me
Right. So
neither.
probably down the line, and like it's like an introduction. I want to just get everybody involved in the production scene over
It's
for the
pretty cool,
podcast.
dude. Like,
Yeah,
I think it'd be cool to like learn from other
yeah,
producers. See you.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
I watched your previous episode and I watched the guy talk and
yeah,
it's pretty educational that way. It
yeah.
was nice.
So I think a bit of my inspiration for starting the podcast is man, how do I forget? There was these guys. They used to interview everyone regarding not Bangalore, but like yeah, I'll Pensado's place. Yeah,
Okay.
there were these. So yeah, I like a huge inspiration for me starting. So they used to talk about reverbs and like just like the whole tale of like production and like I mean, if you and I meet and if you and all the other production guys meet, that's what we're gonna talk about. Like, why not just like talk about production,
Yeah,
right?
actually, yeah.
Right
And
on the
in the Neo Catch that you guys organized the Neo Catch gig, that was the first
yeah,
time I actually met other artists. So I was
yeah,
all
yeah,
like
yeah.
fangirling over like
Yeah,
everybody.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Same here, bro. I was surprised with the beatboxing community, especially,
Yeah.
right?
I mean, yeah, dude,
That was
it's mad. Yeah.
like pretty interesting to see like just line of boys. You don't need like a drum
Even
machinist.
even like the
Just
even
get these
the
boys.
live artists like the
Yeah, 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 yeah,
guitarists
yeah.
and stuff,
Definitely,
brilliant, dude.
definitely.
Momo, all like Anukul, these
Yeah,
guys are
yeah,
like beasts.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
It was a good introduction to the scene. And these guys,
yeah.
I mean, I'm not really a part because like I'm busy running all the podcasts. So
I mean, even
I
you
would just
played a
share.
set, right?
Yeah,
You played a
right.
set.
That's when time allows. So just like get in and just throw a set. But yeah, boys
Nice.
did the entire thing. Boys just bootstrapped everything. Like big props to the boys actually. Jokic. And for the guys who are listening who don't know what's happening around Jokic is more of like an artist community, and they hold flea markets and they hold music events in and around Bangalore. And yeah, they get a lot of artists, and yeah, I saw a lot of new art being showcased there, and it was a fun event. And these guys just like straight out of the blue, they just like started just going all in on it, and it was
That's
interesting to
crazy,
see. Like,
dude. Like
yeah,
the fact that you guys target underground artists and
yeah,
try to
yeah,
get
yeah,
them out, it's pretty
yeah,
brilliant. Like,
yeah, yeah.
I mean,
I
for
I
someone
just
like me, it
oversee it.
was like, yeah,
Yeah,
it was nice, dude.
yeah, yeah,
Like it's something that doesn't come that easy because in the Bangalore scene, it's super hard for like
yeah,
an underground artist to like where do you even start?
yeah.
Yeah,
Where do you get the platform? Even that's because I
yeah,
think partly because of like the banning of live events and stuff, it became
yeah,
harder, right?
yeah.
Okay, so that's where I met you at the event, and I heard your production and what you guys were spitting. So, for the guys who don't know, he played techno music and he made some of his stuff too. And I was pretty impressed. So I was like, let's why not? Let's go dive deep. I mean, I want to just keep the podcast just for people who want to start off in production and people who understand production. So, like, you can go anywhere. We can speak about anything related to production and stuff because. As I told, like I want to geek out and like I'll use this as a platform to just like fucking geek out and like have questions and like share knowledge and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, that's
So
nice.
so tell me, Kaushik, how do you get into production, music production?
So for me, I actually started off making mixes,
Huh?
um, and it actually started when two of my friends we went to Kodaikanal,
Right.
and yeah, we were just chilling there, having a nice trip and all of that. And I was playing one of my mixes to my friends, and I looked around and I saw these guys dancing to
Right.
it,
Right.
and that somehow made me really happy. And I thought like that was kind of where the thought of like them dancing, yeah, they were actually dancing to other people's music, right? That's what a mix is.
Yes.
It's other
Yes.
artists, it's a compilation. So I thought it'd be pretty cool if I could get people to dance to my own music, and that's where
Right.
sort of the thought was born. And yeah, that's what
Right.
led up to this moment here where
Led
I've
up
been
to the
making
moment.
my yeah.
Interesting. So, for the guys who are watching, you can comment, you can ask questions. It's like an open conversation. So, just fire away questions, probably you'd answer. And we can have an open conversation if there are any producers. If you're beginning, if you want to get into it, you can fire away questions. So, I wanted to ask, what was your next step? How does one tackle? Like, I'm just using the perspective of somebody who doesn't know music production. So, I want to bring value to them, just for them to understand where did Kaushik just, what led next?
In I think I mean, the idea of having a piece of art that is completely your own, the fact that you have a piece of sound that wouldn't exist if you didn't put your thoughts and your effort towards it, I think that's really humbling, and I think that's the main purpose that, pursuing music even gives me. So I think that's pretty cool.
Right.
Yeah.
And on the technical end, did you what software and how do you get into it? Did you get down some drivers, audio cards,
Yeah. So I actually
or did you just
started
start
off.
making beats?
No, so I was making mixtapes on FL Studio, like, just
Hmm.
mapping the automations and stuff.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
I would just export it as a mix and I would play it. It wasn't even like I had a DJ console and I was mixing. I was literally
Yeah.
making it
Yeah.
on FL Studio, the mixes.
Right. Right. Right.
So I went on from that to making these lo-fi beats. And
Hmm.
my first attempt at making an actual track was a lo-fi beat, because I think beats are pretty easy to make. I just had a bunch of sample packs back then and sort
Right.
of just
Right.
arranged them together. And I was like, oh, I'm a producer now.
Peaceful.
But but yeah, I mean, it was a really simple track, but then making that track sort of you know made me feel like the possibilities are with this are like endless. So
Endless.
yeah,
Right.
endless, endless. So, it went from there to like feeling guilty about why I'm using samples. Like, okay,
Huh.
samples.
Right. Go
I
from the
don't like,
scratch. Skin the
yeah,
boot.
like, yeah, it went there to like, using synthesizers. And then
Hmm.
from that, it went to like, why don't I play my own music and then sample that? And it's
Right.
just,
Right.
that's why you keep feeling insecure about like whether you're actually making music or not, because I'm not from a music sort of background.
Right.
I'm actually a programmer by a
Ah.
web developer by profession.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah, so for
So
me
it's
it was
music
just like,
programming.
yeah, technically it's music
Yeah.
program. So I mean, yeah, I think from my perspective, anyone who's listening to this, who's sort of overwhelmed by the whole process, you can I'm telling you, you can do it. Like,
Yeah.
it's
Exactly.
okay.
We have some trolls around.
Yeah,
Right.
I know who that guy is. Okay,
Right.
anyways, yeah. Yeah, so from my perspective, I can tell you that you don't need to have an actual music background or professional training in music to get
Right.
started. You
Right.
just
Right.
need you just need to like listen to a lot of music and dig it and
Yeah,
make
yeah,
want to make it bad enough.
yeah,
I
yeah.
think that's enough of a push for you to like start.
Exactly.
I mean, eventually you'll need to learn a lot of music theory and all of that
Theory
if
and
you
stuff,
want to
and
make it.
it's like a full circle. You just start. You need to know what's next. You'll get into music theory, a bit of
Yeah.
music theory, and then bit of theory and arrangement and stuff. So like how I got into music production is a bit is how I would call it is like like clawing my way through like information, right? So basically, I used to play acoustic guitar and go around and like play shows as in just a one person acoustic wherever, whichever college used to allow me to go, for just open mics, whether shall it be open mics or should it be like fests, basically single western acoustic stuff. I used to just go around and just take my guitar and go play. And then it it was one of this gig in near Whitefield. I came to this like realization that like I practiced, right? I played the guitar, like I had everything right. I practiced all my tracks. But when I got in front of the PA, like that's where the control ended. Like I had no control to someone who listens, right? I had no control after that, right? What's the mic? How do I use the mic? What the fuck is this mixer? And like what happens with the mixer? How do you cut and how do you boost frequencies? From sitting from here I can understand, like, so I always almost like I was like, what is happening? Like, what the fuck? I only know 50%. Like, however good, I can't like really carve my music and like take it to the complete end and like put out a complete finished stuff and have more control over the performance versus, right? Because usually what happens is the guy who sits near the mixer is not really into engineering and stuff. He's just from the event guy. He just makes sure that thing doesn't get fucking wet. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry la sir, ಹಾಳಾಗ್ಬಿಡುತ್ತೆ, ದೂರ ಕೂತ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. That's all he says, right?
That's
So I'm like,
yeah.
okay, this guy doesn't know. He's just jacking up fucking frequency, making sure no feedback, making sure like this thing just doesn't burst. And then I'm like, okay, fuck. I need this is so much more. And then I started YouTubing shit, and then I'm like, oh fuck, a vague understanding of you know vague understanding of like what are frequencies and masking and all that
Yeah.
shit. And then I tried to do my own shit. It didn't work out. So I had the next day, so I got my friend along, and I put him. He was a producer and stuff. So he got his card and he plugged it in and he gave a bit of reverb and like, oh fuck yeah, now like fucking everything is in control. And I made him stand there. I'm like, okay, bro, is it working? Do I sound fine? He's like, yeah, yeah, yeah. Because and there's no concept of fucking monitor for like the guy who's playing and shit. Like there was no concept of like monitor for the guy. It's like wild west. So I was like pretty frustrated as to like, then it was a natural thing as to like, okay, I need to know like performance, but I also need to get into understanding like what goes around it, so that if somebody's doing something behind it, I can at least tell them like this is the kind of tone that I'm going for. Like, so that was my journey and like to like, okay, what was next? And then I
That
moved
was
on
nice.
into right. So and then I moved on into podcasting, and then I'm like, no, let's put two and two together and just start a podcasting. And then I was very interested to bring the conversation on music production. There are a lot of kids and like producers even want to just know more about, want to like recreate stuff and like make music on their own and stuff like that, right? um, Moving on, um, how do you start a track?
I mean, there's no actual. It's not that structured. I'm not that organized.
Right, it doesn't have
So,
to be.
yeah, but like usually, most of the time, so I watch a lot of anime. Okay, like
Right.
I'm like that, weebo. So, but in anime, I listen to a lot of the soundtracks, and sometimes I really take the soundtracks and just basically stuff that I hear, even in movies and stuff. I get inspired by the sound, and I'd want to make my own sort of
Right,
reinterpretation of that same
right,
sound. But then, you can't really make a remix because,
right.
that's I don't think that's legal unless you get like permission from whatever you're
Right.
taking it from. So
Until you
I
get that.
start off with the intention of making a remix, but then I mess with it so much that it's unrecognizable, and suddenly I have like my own track. So that's pretty much how most of my tracks have gone so far.
Right.
But yeah, it's just like, yeah, you just put your own thoughts into what you hear and you morph it. You're
Uh-huh.
just like, yeah.
Right. And you primarily use FL?
No, I started off with FL. I used it for about a year and I got really comfortable with it actually. That would have been my primary sort of DAW if it wasn't for my friend who's like deep into production at the time, and he said, dude, later down the line you might need to perform live and stuff. So
Hmm.
I'd suggest you experiment with different DAWs. So
Right.
and
Right.
not just because this is the first thing you've seen, you can't just be like, okay, this is the scene. He said, I mean, I think that was really wise advice. It was is actually his name's Mohit Balaga. He makes dubsteps and stuff.
Right.
So and yeah, so he said, dude, like try out live, Ableton Live,
Right.
and I said, cool, bro, I'll give it a go. And I
Hmm.
like most of the tutorials that I watched on, and that's pretty much how I learned music production, watching
Right.
videos
Open
and just
source.
yeah, open source music production.
No,
Yeah,
speaking some programming
yeah, program.
lingo.
Press random button, see what happens, see what
See
kind
how
of
the
sound
fuck
comes.
happens. Yeah.
Yeah,
Have fun.
that's pretty much. Yeah, it was fun. It was like a lot of fun. Like got a real kick out of doing that stuff. So, anyways, he told me about Ableton, and I gave it a shot. And I also noticed that most of the tutorials for, I'd Google saying, how does Stefan Bodzin make his bass line, and then I'd be
Yes.
led to a video where the guy's using Ableton, and
Yasin
I'd just
helps.
be like, fuck, like why can't
Fuck.
you use like my DAW, like, and then I was like, okay, cool. Anyways, I'm gonna learn this. So, like, it'll give me
Is
access
it
to a
is
lot
it
of.
is it Yasin? Yacinelfe. Yasin.
Yeah, bro, that guy's a beast, bro.
Right.
Dude, he's like my primary sort of
Yeah, yeah,
go-to
bro.
to
For the
like.
techno scene, yeah, we all know what's up, right?
Yeah, dude, Yashin Effie is
Yeah,
he's the man, bro.
right. His tag is I forget his tag.
He
His
has a
producer
tag.
tag. Huh,
I
huh,
thought
huh.
that was his
No, no,
thing.
no, no. He has something music. Right, right. So
Oh yeah,
this
Mercurial Tones,
m-
dude. Mercurial Tones.
is it no, 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 no.
Yeah, that's his
Is
record
it?
label. Yeah.
Huh. So his producer, he has a producer tag. He goes by a producer name. I
Okay.
forget. Right, and he has some crazy.
Dude, dude, the amount of knowledge this guy has.
Yeah, yeah.
So he's been like a rock. He had a band and stuff here. Like, he used to play guitar in a rock band, and that's where
Right.
all his like
That's the gateway.
music theory comes from. And dude, he has so much like expertise and control
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah,
over Ableton. He's just free, dude. It's
yeah,
like this
yeah,
is his sandbox, and he can make whatever just by
yeah, yeah,
imagining it.
yeah,
That's sort of the go-to that producers should aim to get to. Just
yeah,
like a
yeah,
DAW should just be a medium for your thoughts to
yeah.
sort of flow. It shouldn't.
Right.
There shouldn't be
Go in and
any
out.
inhibitions from the technology. And I think
Hmm.
Ableton is a software where you can achieve that pretty fast because of how intuitive the whole
Yeah,
workflow is
yeah.
and all of
And
that.
so fun.
Yeah,
It's so
it's
fun.
brilliant, dude. It's brilliant. Yeah.
So how for me somewhere I got stuck in the session view, and then you get stuck
Dude,
in
the
the fucking
session view is
session
what
view.
throws everyone off, dude. Like,
Yeah,
suddenly you come
right.
from
You
FL
spend
Studio
like
where everything is like arrangement view, and you see like there are all these buttons. Like, what the hell does all this
what
do?
the fuck's happening? Wait, before we continue, username isn't
Someone has
available. Meh
meh.
says, what's harder, composing music or penning down lyrics?
I have no experience of penning down lyrics, so
Right. He
I cannot comment on
right.
that.
So he's more into music production versus songwriting, right? We could say that, and
Yeah.
lyric
Do you have any experience
songwriting.
songwriting?
I can't say anything because like I'm like playing ball here. I really I don't have anything that I'd call my own. But yeah, I try to like understand like how do you write songs and stuff like that. But yes,
But
not really.
I
Something
think
that I can.
I think from a personal perspective and how I've seen people sort of go about this, I think penning down lyrics and composition sort of go hand in hand because you're sort
Hmm,
of thinking of a melody, and in the end, most people, not all people, they think of words that can sort of fill in with those melodies.
yep,
And
yep.
very rarely do I see people who sort of, have a story in mind and then think of a
Hmm.
song because usually
These
the
are
music
original
comes first.
songwriters, right?
Yeah,
Who then get into production probably.
yeah.
Those people like probably are more into like
I mean,
what
that's
is the
super
music?
niche. I doubt
Yeah,
people,
yeah.
but yeah,
But,
you can go
so
both
let's
ways.
Right. People for people who are listening, just tell them what kind of music you're into, and you talk
So
introduce more of
I
that. Right.
mainly make melodic techno, sort of the
Yeah.
style of
Amen.
again Stefan Bodson and stuff like that.
Whew.
Big inspiration like
So,
Stefan.
FYI, I started a techno podcast also.
Nice. Okay. Cool.
Right. So we can get into the artist stuff
Definitely. All right.
there. So
Cool.
yeah, Mind Against, Afterlife,
Yeah, I mean, even
uh,
Ben Bomber sort of stuff
Ben
because
Boma,
so when I'm making my music, I sort of have
Anjana
to go
Deep Friend.
through. Yeah, Anjuna Perfect. Yeah, that's exactly the sort of genre that I'm aiming at. So when I'm making music, I sort of have to go through this feedback loop with my dad because his.
Nice.
I mean, yeah, dude, I'm supposed to be a web developer and I'm like
Right,
messing
right, right,
around
right.
with music, so he needs to know sort of what I'm doing.
What's up?
And so, yeah, he needs to know like what's this guy doing in his room the whole day with
Right, right,
all
right,
his
right.
shit. So, like,
Yeah.
I'll be like, Dad, I made a track, can you check it out and all that? And then he'll be like, oh, yeah. But to be honest, he's probably the most honest critique I can find because it's so easy to find appreciation when you're a
Right,
producer.
right,
You
right.
send your track to someone, they're like, bro, crazy, bro,
Bomb,
mad, bro,
bomb.
then next level. But it's hard to like. Uh, is my video like stuck or is it fine?
Yeah, yeah,
Because
yeah. It's a bit
for
stuck.
me it looks stuck. I don't know.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Looks so
We'll wait
trippy,
it
dude.
out.
Yeah. Uh, what do I even do?
I think we'll wait it out. It should. I think in after I save the video, this wouldn't be as it is. I guess. I guess.
Should I like disconnect and then reconnect or
No, do
something?
not disconnect because I just want it in one piece. Like I'm just keep.
Let me just try to switch my camera or something. I don't know. Yep. Wow, Instagram's so trash, dude.
Can't help it, bro. I want it live so that it's more fun like this versus Zoom. I try to
Yeah.
Zoom too, but should we
What
move
I can
ahead and
just should I
yeah?
just disconnect and reconnect? Like I think that'll be
Okay,
fine,
yeah,
right?
yeah. Hopefully it'll be in one episode.
Yeah.
I'll have a water break. Technical difficulties. I am sorry.
All good?
Yes.
Cool.
We were talking about your dad
Yeah,
critiquing you.
yeah. Oh, yeah, my dad. Okay. So, yeah, I sort of have to, I usually have the habit of sending him what I make or like, making him listen to it. And this is not his genre, dude. He listens to old
Classical stuff.
school rock stuff and he
Right.
listens to like Enigma and stuff like that. The old school like
Right.
gods
Right.
of the
Right.
origins of like techno and all of that.
Right.
Brilliant
Right. Right.
stuff. Like and he just listens, he goes like, okay. And like he
Right.
doesn't, verbally sort of like critique me, but I can see it from his face because he's my dad. Like I look at his face and he's just like, like he does shit like that, and I know like it's probably fucking trash or something. So and yeah, but he gives me an honest opinion, which, like I said, is super hard to find when you're like a producer starting off.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I've noticed that usually when I'm having food or something, I usually play sets from artists like on the TV while he's eating. Also, he'll be chilling that, and he seems to like music with a lot of organic elements. So I played. I I'll give you an example. I played Boris Brejcha
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
played Ben Bomber. Okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
he did not like Boris Brejcha. Even though Boris Brejcha
Boris
is a
is power.
beast, he's beast, but like he did not like it. He said Ben Bomber is beast. Like his music sounds pleasing. It's more
Right.
sort of approachable to any sort of ear,
Yeah.
and it's just more generic. And I feel the reason for that is because he uses a lot of organic elements in
Yeah. His
most of
pads
his
are
tracks.
nice.
In all of even the percussion, all of it, it's
Right.
so
Right.
organic.
He's
It's
a
like
he's a complete Yuhi guy.
yeah, I think that's the whole reason he changed the game of like, he made sort of melodic techno
Techno
almost
ID.
mainstream, almost mainstream. It's almost
Yeah.
mainstream
Yeah.
now because of him. Like,
Yeah.
it's
It's
because
just
of
it's
how
just it's
he's,
bit. Go ahead.
yeah, it's like how he's incorporated these organic elements and sort of made them glue so well with like the
Yeah,
electronic
yeah,
scene.
yeah.
It's flawless, dude. It's brilliant,
And I also
actually.
feel he's more in the techno scene, but since he joined the Anjuna Deep scene, which is more commercial, he's just like the gateway to the rest of the techno. I feel right.
Yeah, yeah, dude. Yeah, definitely. Gateway is like the
And
right word.
yeah, and Anjuna Deep, I love Anjuna Deep too, like James Grant and what those guys do, some brilliant
Yeah.
stuff. That's like the warm up, and then we slowly get even more warmed in, right? Um, Give us more artists that you are listening currently.
I mean, right now, it's actually pretty niche. I try to listen to as many new artists as possible because I'd
Okay,
be a hypocrite if I didn't. And
right,
like,
right, right,
yeah, I just this I actually have a friend. His name is Initialize. So he's
right.
he's an artist and he makes sort of melodic techno. He's based in the US and he's a lot elder to us, but he's a
Right,
professional. And
right.
so I was sort of listening to one of his tracks on Spotify Discover Weekly, and I loved it. So I just wanted to show my appreciation on Instagram. So usually I do this a lot. I fan gay over a lot of the artists that I like. I just text them even
Right.
though I know they'll probably never like even
Yeah,
look at
yeah,
it. I'll be like, bro, mental track, bro, you fucking killed it, crazy
yeah.
and all that. To my surprise, shit, Ableton's on. Sorry. Yeah.
That's the way.
So yeah. Um, yeah, so to my surprise, he actually replied back and he said, thanks, dude. I really appreciate it. And, I went further saying, I'm in the production scene too. And I'd really like to sort of talk to you. And we had a session like this, something like this, a one-on-one sort of a Discord session as to like how he actually made a few videos on YouTube just breaking down his tracks for me because I
Okay.
requested. He's been super kind that way. The
Right,
fact
right, right,
that he's at that stage and he's taking the time to sort of do all of this for us, like,
right,
and I was super grateful for that. I'm still in touch with him every day. And
right.
again, I feel like the most important thing when it comes to sort of music production and the hardest thing to find is like a positive sort of feedback loop as such. Like, you want someone to sort of listen to what you've made and not give you an unrealistic idea of what it actually is. And,
Right, right, right.
and finding that is also sort of to a certain extent it's achievable, but finding a professional who sort of listens to it and tells you how to fix it, now
How
that's
to
you
fix it?
have to be lucky to find like a
Yeah,
person like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
And Initialize was sort of a mentor for me like that. He listens to my
Nice.
mix. He tells me the mix is money. He tells me certain high, like the high frequencies are too much. And if I'm aiming for like this kind of a vibe, like an afterlife sort of vibe, the high frequencies need to be lowered compared to the low
Yeah.
frequencies because it's usually dominated by the low frequencies.
Right, right,
Stuff like that. He gives me like insights from like a more experienced point of view,
right.
and I
And
think that's
sometimes,
super hard to like find.
and yeah, and like sometimes I observe like afterlife, these guys don't go sometimes more above 11K hertz. Like they like almost cap it up.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Uh, these more like afterlife sort of type they try to stay more in the low end than
Low end.
the high, yeah,
I
but
mean, for me, my favorite artist ever, especially in the afterlife scene, is Mind Against. Like I can't like.
yeah, I actually haven't heard like
Mind Against is like is like for me right now. I mean, as it's more underrated. I feel like they're so underrated that they just it feels good like that underrated artist just like killing it. But like, and when during the lockdown we didn't hear from them also, and they just came played a Unity set, and then they
nice.
fucking killed it. And then yeah, A-Tragic.
And so have you heard of this artist named No Mana?
No,
He's actually signed to Deadmau5's label.
yeah,
Deadmau5 signed him as an artist, and he makes this sort of synthwave, sort of prog synthwave. I don't even know what to call it. It's just like arcade music. He uses like a lot of 8-bit and he has that whole arcade vibe going. It's brilliant,
right.
dude. Like I don't know, he just has his own sound and I feel like that's another topic you can talk about when it comes to music production, sort of finding your own sound. Yeah, you can make
Hmm.
tracks and stuff, but then when these artists have this thing, like, you listen to Stephen Bodson on over the radio or something, and you don't even know the name of the track, but you sort of know, like, okay, this sounds like Stephen Bodson. So
Is the
that's
moog.
yeah. I feel like that's sort of like, where you set your goal to sort of
Yeah,
make
yeah,
people
yeah.
recognize your sound,
Sound.
even though they haven't actually heard your new tracks, or something signature that only
Something
you,
signature.
yeah,
Right.
something
And
unique to yourself.
what about the gigs? Inela is coming to Bangalore. INELLA. I think they're also on Afterlife. And then Adana Twins.
I mean, there are so many
The
artists, dude.
yeah, the
Like,
floodgates have opened like since the pandemic. The
it's
guys
gonna be
are
nice.
just yeah, the guys are
Yeah,
just right. And digital this year probably it's not going to take place or going to take place. You didn't go last year, did you?
digital. What?
Digital
No, no,
DGTL. Yeah,
no,
so
no,
it's
no.
like full fledged. Like it was the first year. I think they're from Amsterdam or that side. It's like a complete techno festival, right? And this year, obviously, due to the Corona thing last year. But yeah, they'll get Matame. They'll get all these guys, like the entire crew.
That's
Let me
fine.
ask. Let me get into the technical stuff. How do you attack drums?
So, I mean, usually I start with a good sample pack. Like so I went through a whole course from PML, Production Music
Yeah,
Live,
those
of
guys are
making
good.
like,
Let's get
yeah,
into that later. Some YouTube channels also. Let's get
yeah.
into
I
that later.
mean, so they have sort of good starter packs on, like, a good kick drums and stuff. And I just load sort of an acceptable kick drum, and then I go on from there. Depending on what the vibe of my track is, add like a few layers to the drum, maybe a little more top end to make it clicky, or a little hiss to make it sound like, it depends from song to song as such. Like, there's actually no I mean, it's so overwhelming, this whole process of music production. I feel like,
Yeah,
from the very start, even though you don't have all the plugins in the world, you don't have all the samples in the world, you just have like, maybe like, you have like some 3 8-bar loops, and you have like
yeah.
some drum
Well,
samples, and still the possibilities are endless, because each little sample can be sort of morphed in its own way, in like a
and
thousand
influential
ways.
somewhere.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, yeah, it's nice. And
Do you do? Do you go for the TR-909 very preferred in the techno scene, or do you also like start layering the 909 into different stuff,
I mean, so when it
or
comes
the
to techno,
PML, the PMLs?
I usually start with the bass line, actually, because I feel like
Nice.
that's the most.
For me, I just go into the groove, bro. I need to layer like the fucking like the movement, right, and then bust the entire
I
fucking
mean, percussion is very
the rhythm.
important.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
that's there,
Then
but then
then I sort of get into the pads and stuff like yeah, baseline I do when I try to make house and stuff like I just after reading a bit of Solomon's production and stuff, he's like I get a real bassist and then I make him play and then just get into the groove and then
that's
baseline is
nice.
very important for me, and then after I lay down the baseline then I try to like bring in the groove and stuff, yeah. But since I'm very afterlife and mind against oriented, right? Like I at least try to emulate. I just go into the groove, just like get into the zone of like the rhythm, and then like try to bring in other stuff. I want to ask, what's that element that you like? It's your element. Like, is it the snare? Is it the claps, or is it the kick? Is it the vocals?
I mean, it's
What's
definitely the bass line, dude. That's you
baseline?
know, that's
Right.
what that's what gets you hooked to a track,
Gets
and that's what
uh,
gets you moving.
for me for
So
me
yeah,
for me it's funnily it's the pads. I like these evolving deep like I'm like a pads kind of guy. Like if the pads are
I
right, it's like oh yes, oh yes,
nice,
like
cool.
these deep like evolving like very eerie but at the same time like
Wait,
swelling
I
stuff.
think I have like, so I was actually working on one of my tracks,
Go ahead.
and I think uh, sort of it has the same vibes as what you're talking about right now.
Go ahead.
I don't know if you can actually hear it because it's Instagram.
Yeah, 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 we're good.
Is this what you're talking about? This kind of a vibe?
Yeah, yeah.
that this is very like Afterlife Stefan Watson sort of
Yeah,
band.
yeah,
Again,
yeah.
I got it from Yalchan, bro. He made one full
Okay,
review at the
okay,
Tony.
crazy.
Yeah,
That guy goes everywhere, bro.
yeah,
He did a
dude.
Maceoplex episode also.
Yeah.
How to get his vibe.
Oh, dude, mental, dude.
Yeah,
Maceoplex
yeah,
beast. And I feel like if that one set, there's a boiler room set of
yeah.
Maceoplex.
The
Dude, oh
infamous
my God. That got me into
the
the scene,
LM
bro.
guy.
Yeah, the LM guy. Yeah. There's a guy like on acid. He has like a stamp on his head or something, and he's just talking to himself. Like, I mean, but yeah, that track, Solitary Days, dude.
Solitary Days,
My
yes.
God, dude,
So his
what a
episode is
vibe.
very good, bro. He tries to do one of the Solitary Days or something like that. He starts with the bass line,
Bro,
and
if
like
it's
gets the
Solitary Days, I'm going there like after this
yeah,
podcast.
right,
Yeah, dude,
exactly.
that was one hell of a track, dude. My God.
Yeah. So the producer wise on channels, Yasin Elf and who else? The PML. We've talked
Dude,
about
there's this guy called
production music.
You Suck at Producing, bro. He's a
Yeah, you suck at
beast.
producing. Yeah,
Underbelly. What a guy, dude. He makes the
right.
process so humorous, like, it's not overwhelming anymore.
Yeah.
Like, it's almost like watching a show, dude. It's just brilliant that people can pull off that kind of thing. But
Yeah.
nice.
Um, I want to talk about there was someone else in the scene. It's PML and then Yasin Elf and Andrew Young.
Yeah,
Andrew Young
Andrew
is one of those
Huang.
crazy
Yeah, yeah,
synth and
those
like
four
everything.
producers. Dude, I feel like we should do something like that. The four producers,
What
one
about
sample thing.
yeah, bro? This is the initiative. Like I'm trying to do what I'm in my domain. That's podcasting right now, right? And we try to do some kind of a 10-minute against the clock, and right using the against the
That's
clock
a
stuff.
little intense, dude. That's
Yeah,
like
intense. But yeah,
you
we
gotta.
just just get the producer community going against the clock
I mean,
and
for people like me and all, probably in 10 minutes I'll have like a kick drum going. Like,
going.
okay, that's.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, but probably the four producers, one sample, you'd have
Oh
more
yeah,
time
the
to
four
sort of.
producers flip one
Yeah,
sample.
that seems more
Mis-
approachable. Yeah.
Right, Mr. Big or Mr. Bill or Mr. Beast, one of those guys in the
Yeah, Mr. Bill, I think it was Bill. Yeah,
Mr.
he
Bill.
has like a
Yeah.
big thing.
What about Bebetta, bro? Bebetta, she's coming to
Oh,
Bangalore.
bro,
She's Bangalore or
brilliant.
India.
What? Are you
She's coming to
serious?
India. Yeah. I saw.
Bro,
I think she's
I
already.
heard her.
She's
I
in
mean,
and she's out.
bro, that's mad.
She does a lot of what I've observed. Right, let's get into that also. She does a lot of. Are you the MIDI or are you the audio track? Or it's a mix of both.
MIDI. It's mostly
Uh,
MIDI.
I was
Yeah.
very much into MIDI, bro. Then I sort of after observing her too, and after like just trying to like just flip things on myself, I just lesser of the MIDI and more of just using the samples themselves and using the audio track. That also found like a interesting flow. Like all since the MIDI is like within the sampler, right? But what I like is the audio's track is right there, right in front of you. So I know what's happening if I observe the entire. So it became a bit more fun. But yeah, MIDI is always fun because it's less cumbersome, I guess, right? Just
I
throw it in,
mean,
take the MIDI.
you have more control over your music when you're using sort of the MIDI because you have access to all of the synths parameters, like the
Ah,
cutoff and all of that, and you can automate those
right.
as per your will. So you have like a little. I mean, I feel like you could say the same about samples because of the amount of plugins that you can use to mess with samples.
Mess with
But
it.
yeah, I guess you could
Yeah, I
go.
was primarily a sampler kind of a guy, but like I just like that. Pull in an 8 bar and just get all kinds of samples and just paste it, just copy it,
Yeah.
Control D, which is a bit frying, but when you observe, when you can see it, right, what if the tail is like coming in between or something, it's like all easily like
Yeah,
available,
okay.
the
It's
information.
visually, yeah.
Yeah, it's visually there. Like I know, like I can throw shits. Plus, it saves up a bit of space. I can use the same audio track if there's nothing on there. I can just throw in some other element
Yeah,
and
and it
stuff like
doesn't
that.
fry your CPU
Yeah, it
also.
doesn't fry the entire scene. Right. That's what. As you said, you were talking about baseline, and let's get into like any kind of plugins that you're liking.
I mean, so it's hard to sort of get access to all of these expensive plugins
Yeah.
when you're not in the music field as such. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, this is all like, I mean, I try to stick with So I started using Diva recently, and I really
Truly.
love it. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
it totally goes with the vibe I'm sort of trying to pursue.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
with the whole
OG.
analog sort
I
of
think the
vibe,
entire Afterlife's gang uses like
yeah, and
primarily
because
UV Diva.
because of this Yalchin, bro, he's full influence. Like,
Definitely. And
yeah,
Ben Boma also uses primarily Diva, and he says I make everything out of Diva. I guess even the claps and fucking everything they're relating to, and it's like a modern Moog,
yeah,
at
dude.
least.
I mean, they've come pretty close to analog synthesis too. It's
Analog,
pretty
and yeah,
nice. Yeah,
it has a vibe. It has a beautiful vibe, right? Okay, so
yeah.
what's give us your take on reverbs and how do you observe reverbs?
I mean, I usually go with, again, it depends on the track. So, and it depends on the sound that I'm using it on. I usually use stock for like reverbs and stuff, but yeah,
Mhm.
there's like here and there some Valhalla, Shimmer,
Yeah,
and all of
Valhalla's.
that. Yeah, Valhalla is like, and they're all free, so I try to keep it,
Huh.
free most,
Valhalla,
because most
Valhalla's
of the
easy.
things you can do with like free plugins. There are a lot
Huh.
of really good free plugins out
I
there.
like Fab Filter. Fab Filter guys do some crazy
Oh,
work.
dude, yeah, but that's not free, but
Yeah,
yeah.
that's not free. Yeah, but the
Yeah.
reverb is like fuck. Like they have
Nice.
some pretty. And what I like to dig is like these old reverbs and like fucking synthesizers which are just like 25 MB free ones, 25. Like it's like the equivalence of like guys collecting hardware, right? Like I have these old digital guitar, or some sorry hardware.
Yeah.
What do you call compressors or like distortion pedals? That's what Deadmau5 says. The sort of he collects all of that and he runs it through that just to get that grit and stuff. So I'm
Yeah.
like I search for all these shitty old kind of like sequencers and like I used to like now I reset and I'm going through the entire thing again. But like yeah, old reverbs, you never know what kind of a reverb or like some kind of a sequencer which might change things. Or like pads for pad related stuff. You'll get these old very shitty stuff, but that's what you make out of it.
I
That's
mean,
also
yeah.
fun.
Yeah, I feel like you can do most of the things from using stock plugins from what Ableton has to offer to you.
Yeah.
And yeah, like you were saying, Deadmau5, dude. So when you're talking about Deadmau5, I'm pretty sure you're talking about his masterclass, right? Have you watched his
Yeah,
masterclass?
OG.
Yeah, yeah. The fact that he has no sort
I
of
haven't listened to his
knowledge.
music, but I love the.
What do you mean you haven't listened to it?
When I say I
What?
haven't listened, I haven't. I have listened to it, as it's not like I go listen to Dead Mouse versus I go
Bro,
listen to like techno,
I mean,
right?
he's
I do
this
listen
is
to his
like
music.
tenth grade sort of this. What's
Yeah,
it mean? The electronic
I,
scene.
I
Dead
was
Mouse is
10th grade. I
fucking
was more
shit.
into the metal, the Metallica, and
Oh,
Lamb of
okay,
God.
okay, okay,
Right,
cool.
you see the guitar right there.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
I
what was
see, I see.
happening 10th
Nice,
grade.
nice. Yeah,
Right. So yeah, but when I watched the masterclass, it was like mind blowing, like the stuff that he was teaching and stuff like that. Then I'm like, wow, crazy shit. And I like the stuff that he was doing and teaching especially, right? That
and
was
he,
fun.
he has like a similar approach to sort of how I got into music. He has no sort of hand in sort of
Spacebar,
music theory as such. Yeah,
spacebar to
what?
everywhere. Spacebar, just spacebar. Put it in spacebar, spacebar, spacebar. This full
He goes for
episode
the
was
sound. He goes for the programming of
yeah,
the
yeah.
programming aspect of
I
most of the
like
musical elements.
yeah, I like how he laid down the chord sequencing. Just that was very interesting. You just like go with the
I
chord
mean,
sequencing and then like, bring out everything else.
that's pretty much
There are
how all
times,
my tracks are made. Yeah.
yeah, there are times where I watched the same masterclass over years, like with Dead Mouse. Like every time I've watched it, it's
Dude,
like
that
because I'm not
masterclass
like
isn't actually of any technical value, but it's more like a motivational sort of thing.
motivation
Because
too.
when you
I find
watch
it
it,
technical too, bro.
yeah,
You know why? Because
really? Okay.
yeah, why? Because like it's my journey of understanding like the technical stuff and motivation. Yes, like just to see something and then get into it. But I've been watching it like literally over the years. I've been watching it just because he explains something when I was watching it like 2-3 years back. I guess it was. I had no idea what the fuck he was saying. It was just like the pure like, oh fuck, I'm watching the masterclass or crazy shit. Right, and then like the next year I watched, oh, it makes more sense now. This is what he was fucking doing. Then I watched it like recently. I'm like, oh fuck yeah, I know like what's happening. Like it's like you never step into the same river twice kind of a thing
Yeah,
happening. I'm like,
yeah,
okay,
yeah.
there's something new that you learn, even though you watched it over and over again, right?
That's the only reason I still have it on my hard drive, dude.
Yeah, yeah,
Because
yeah.
every time you
You know,
revisit, you sort of
whenever
you're
you're
at a
bored,
different standpoint, so you
yeah,
can
yeah,
perceive things differently. So yeah.
yeah. So that being said, do you observe the other genres and other scene? What's happening? Timberlands also was fun, and I like going like broader, just seeing what the trap and the hip hop guys are doing and what they're getting
I
in,
mean, I feel
and
like I do mess with lo-fi a lot because
huh,
like I get inspired by anime a lot, and I make like anime remixes
right,
of
right,
my
right, right,
favorite
right,
soundtracks in lo-fi.
right,
So make
right,
nice
right,
chill beats, and these are the kind of things that my dad actually doesn't like, get brain damage over listening to. So
right,
it's
right,
more
right.
presentable to sort of my
Yeah,
parents
yeah,
and
yeah.
stuff. So
Huh.
if at any family gathering they ask me to play my music, I'm not going to play my techno. I'm going to play my lo-fi, and
Yeah,
they're
just
like,
chill.
"Oh yeah, it's super. Oh, your son
Right,
makes
right,
music.
right,
Cool. Yeah, cool." And but
right,
yeah, anyways, I feel like hip hop is sort of I feel like there's no real direction as to how to make a track good. It's just sort of the trend and what people find catchy. It's hard for me to.
yeah, huh.
I mean, my whole perspective behind making music is like, to make a person, because this is how I feel when I listen to
Right, 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 right,
a really good like track, and it gives me goosebumps, and it throws my thoughts on a different terrain, and it sort
right, right,
of
right,
just
right,
makes me it just makes me feel shit I didn't imagine I could feel, and
right,
that's
right,
sort
right,
of
right.
what put me on this whole track, like making music.
Hmm.
I want to make people feel like that, but I really doubt, like, you can listen to a hip hop beat and feel the same way. I
Yeah,
really doubt it, like,
it's for the
but
people from
yeah,
the community,
yeah,
like the producers in it.
yeah,
Right,
it's
something funny
for
for me.
like maybe artists who rap or something like that.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
if they have a good verse to spit, then sure,
Right.
your production's
Yeah,
gonna matter
exactly.
there. But yeah,
E- Exactly. So something funny that happened to me was I primarily never listened to hip hop. It was not much of my interest. So I moved from metal. I moved from rock, metal, blues, and I came over to prog rock. And we were in a huge prog rock phase and like math rock and like what these guys were doing. Ankur, right? Ankur, right?
yeah,
Neocage. These guys were doing.
Anukul,
Uncool, yes.
yeah,
I was huge into Polyphia, the whole like 9 yards, right? But then what happened when I understood production, it just like the gateway is fucking opened up. Like any noise, any music, it didn't matter. I was just so interested in like now just deconstructing like just the
yeah,
music, and then the appreciation for like music completely changed, and
yeah.
then
It's
and
you
then I started.
perceive things differently, right?
Yeah, it's so
Because
different. So now it's like more about like yes, hip hop. I was not primarily into it, but now I like it because like I understand the community and like understand the production. They go for the swing and they go for like the gap and then the 808s and something. I feel like there's something that I can take away and like bring it into what I make. But
exactly,
like this,
that's yeah.
right? And it's fun observing, and it's a huge community too, right? And everybody speaks the language of production, but the technique and like the way they bring out stuff might be different, right? So and after watching Timbaland's episode, I was like totally fucking blown. This guy just makes everything from the mouth, just fucking all the shakers and all the hats and like fucking everything, and then he brings in this element of like sort of. Then I'm like, holy fuck, there's this new way, there's a new fucking way that he just taught me. I'm like, okay, it's very interesting, and then there's something that I can bring in. So then now too, like if I listen to mainstream and something in the radio too, like as opposed to I used to get a bit pissed. I'm like, what is this fucking metal and like prog
There's
rock?
always something you can sort of take away from
Yeah,
what you
it
hear.
became more fun. I'm like, oh, what's happening? What's the 808? Like, how low does this shit go? And like,
And you can sort
how,
of get a few sort of intuitive points as to, like, why is this even mainstream? Why are people even listening to
yeah,
this?
yeah,
So
exactly,
it's
right,
basically
right.
four chords being played over. So you can sort of
Folklores, right? How is it any
mathematically
different?
graph it, like, okay, most people are susceptible to these chord progressions, and maybe
Chord
you could sort of
progressions,
use that,
and
something
it's
like that.
primarily dwells on the vocal production there, vocal chain, and like the crazy
Yeah,
pitch
yeah,
that they
yeah.
use, and
But
then
I
the
feel like pop and stuff, it goes a lot more into music and even lyrics, I guess.
yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah,
you have to make people feel some shit. with what you're singing, and they have to feel some shit. And
Yeah,
with dance music, it's not really like that.
yeah,
If
yeah.
we can get you
I do
moving,
both.
you're sorted.
Uh,
Like,
yeah, I do both, but
yeah,
like I'm primarily, I like hands down, like that's most of my thing is to just make people move us to move emotionally. But mind you, I came from like the porcupine tree and fucking
yeah, yeah,
Riverside,
dude.
and
That's
it
flip.
was
The fact that
that's a
you're from,
huge.
yeah,
That's a different kind of move.
yeah.
That nigga make you cry and you just weep and like fucking
and
curl.
and
But at
rock
the
and
same,
stuff, it's like like it's like an emotional roller
yeah,
coaster
it was.
going.
But and then I'm like, oh fuck, techno music, no fucking lyrics. You don't have to, no downer scenes. It just yes, upper power, right? And again, I got into house also. House also makes me feel like very jumpy and groovy. So that's why when I said I start with the fucking drums, it just I want to like like set the tone for the fucking rhythm. Like this is how like
and
we'll be
and
moving.
there's this other thing about sort of why I choose. I mean, yeah, why I choose to make music without any lyrics is because you can sort of, just listen to it and sort of insert your own thoughts and, feel whatever you want to feel. There's no way to go while listening to it.
Huh.
So yeah, it can just be like my headspace for you when you're
Yeah.
listening to. And I feel like a lot of artists that have inspired me have done that to me. So that's sort of why I choose to
Hmm.
make my songs with no lyrics. But yeah, lyrics are nice now and then. Like
Lyrics are
Anjuna did.
nice.
Yeah,
Exactly. Afterlife Boys use a lot of lyrics. I mean,
yeah.
vocals,
I mean,
and
like barely. It sort of plays the part of a musical element rather than
yeah, element like
lyrics.
you instead of getting a guitar solo in, they'll get a vocal chain
Yeah,
in.
exactly. Some chick will just be like some three words and yeah,
Three
that's it.
words
Yeah.
and beautiful. So that sort of led me to like obsess over vocals, vocal chains, different kinds of mics, getting other than myself, right? That's where you see like where I was coming from, whereas I was this solo singer songwriter, so to speak, or like somebody who took guitars to fucking festivals and colleges and just try to play. Nobody sings, I sing. That kind of like a mindset. But when you understood production, okay, I can sit back, I can be the producer now, I can get people over who wants to sing. Some girl's voice that I probably like, she's probably singing something and she's walking. I'm like, I can be the producer and be like, what, come over. Like, I want to make music that allows collaboration, that allows,
Yeah.
that puts you in a different perspective. What kind of mics am I going to use? How is a vocal chain going to sit? So that makes it more fun. Like, and I like Cigarettes After Sex also. Like, I like the production and all that stuff. So,
Yeah.
very, very reverby and stuff like. So it's so fun when you start understanding production. It's like you can go X, Y, and Z. Like it now you stop like thinking about like what is happening, more about what's the production, right? It's
Yeah.
so much fun, and what's the vocals doing, and like usually in dance
Right.
music we think about the bass line and the energy, but in right, hip hop and like all of that stuff, hip hop primarily they want their 808s, but yes, pop music and popular stuff too, it's the vocals is like I saw from I suggest you watch this guy though, Pensado's Place, right? They get like a lot of production guys over and they speak about like how they do the vocal chains and stuff. They sit completely on like the vocal chain, right? um they want to understand the vocal chain so good and then start bringing in elements that makes you wonder like, wow, like what the fuck. And then again, I try to like let's say like my sister too like sings and stuff, right? So when we jam, right, I'm thinking as a producer more as to like a performer now. Like I'm gonna, okay, what kind of mics are we thinking about,
So
and
that
how
that
do we.
brings me to the topic of like vocal production. So do you know Billie Eilish's brother? His name
Yeah,
is
yeah, my sister loves
Phineas.
Phineas. Yeah.
Yeah, dude. Like most people, they don't even know who Phineas is, but they know
Yeah,
Billie
that
Eilish.
exactly right, is
Dude,
the
this guy is the
producer.
brains behind the like
Yeah,
scene,
brains
dude.
behind it, right?
So he's made
So
these breakdown videos as to how he processes Billie's vocals, and
yeah,
he sort
what's
of
that? I
has
watched
like
that.
this chain. Brilliant, dude. Like,
It's
you
so
know,
brilliant, right?
yeah. It's nice that they
So
have that sibling
and
bond.
primarily
Like,
she is the younger generation, right? She is
yeah,
and being my sister,
Gen
they
Z.
like, yeah, Gen
Yeah,
Z, and they like all that stuff. But like again, I'm coming in as a producer, right? And she's like, I want to sing this track. I'm trying to make her sing like like old stuff, Damien Rice and stuff like that. She's like, okay, but then here's some things that I like. I'm like, okay, actually, if you sing that and if we're able to get shows, probably yes, because like I know like popular stuff like sells, like you can go there and like like sing and
yeah.
like
You
people
can
will
just
actually get it, right? But I'm more of like the rock, and rock never like moved the needle in like, especially in Bangalore, right? I used to go play. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, I really don't know. Can you just play Coldplay and like, stuff like that? Right? I'm like, yeah, I can play Coldplay, but like, I want to play Porcupine Tree. I'm like, fuck. Like they were like, okay, I don't know Porcupine Tree, but when I sit and jam with my sister like that, I know what she brings in. She brings in like what everybody listens to, Billie Eilish and like Coldplay. They all like that stuff. Now I'm like, okay, it's a new influence for me, and I want to know
Yeah,
what
get a taste of the generic
taste of
side.
what's happening, and then
Yeah.
I get my producer juices going in. These guys, for her vocals, they use a very raspy kind of a fucking mic, right? A very like intimate kind of a mic. Billie
Yeah. Yeah.
Eilish's mic, right? Her vocals, and again, I started understanding the brothers, the producer, in which our case is too, right? Like I do like all the
Oh
geeky
shit,
stuff,
that's
and
pretty
she's
relatable for you.
yeah, she
Yeah.
just like, give me the mic, like fuck all that shit. I don't want to do all that other shit. Right, and I like the HVOB. Have you've heard of
Yeah,
HVOB
yeah,
guys?
yeah.
I'm trying to
I
show her like
actually
the
just,
techno scene.
yeah.
You're right,
Nice,
HVOB. I'm like,
dude.
yeah, she sings and I'll give
Have
you
you
some
heard this
macro
track
control.
called Panama? I really like that track. Like, I heard
I
it
would have.
recently. Brilliant, dude. And
Right.
dude, so he's done this really clever thing in that track. He's sort of used sort of a vocal which sort of bleeds into like the kick, and it just sounds mental. I don't
Fuck.
know.
It's
Yeah,
fun, bro.
and
And these
and that's
guys.
the main aspect of the whole song. That's the reason I added the song to my playlist is because of that one element. And I feel like people
Element.
listen to that just because of that one. It's very
Yeah,
clever.
it's like the juice for the track, right?
Yeah.
And HVOB to just like talk about a bit about these guys used a live drummer for one of their circle sets. Like what the drum machine is supposed to do, they got an actual fucking drummer with the electronic drum kit, but he was actually playing the fucking what techno drums are supposed to do. So that was very very fucking interesting.
Oh, and like speaking of which, have you heard of Vocalis or I don't know how you pronounce it. Vocalis,
What what
W-O-R,
oracles,
Vocalis,
oracles? That's what
Oracles.
I've
Oh
heard.
wow, wow.
But
Okay,
whatever,
I can't
whatever.
believe I've been saying that wrong my whole
No, no,
life.
no. I'm wrong. So we started the techno podcast, right?
Oracles. That makes more
So
sense, dude. Oracles makes sense.
Oracle.
What the fuck is
Okay.
Vocalis?
So we started the
Okay.
techno podcast, right?
Yeah.
And when we were talking about all the artists, I'm like, holy fuck! Now I have to really know how to pronounce all these guys' names.
Exactly.
Most of them are
Yeah.
German and stuff like that. Now I can't like fucking get out there and like murder their names. But
Yeah. So
Oracles. Oh, those
Oracles.
guys.
It's actually one guy.
Single
So
guy,
he.
single guy, single guy.
Yeah.
Single
So
guy. He was
he's
in Bangalore, I
made.
guess.
I mean, I didn't know about his gig in Bangalore, but I think in France he's performed an orchestral concert.
Orchestral
bro.
set. Yeah, I've heard that.
Mental.
Mental stuff.
What? Shit, crazy, dude. Like, he's infused techno and like the full
Yeah.
orchestral. Bro,
So-
what? Mental.
Right, and one of my earlier influences, and still obviously, was Bonobo. Like I was very, very much into Bonobo, and I like the stuff that he got a live setup. But he's the producer, just like having all the macros, fucking
Yeah.
right, using Akai live. I think he was an Akai the live thing stuff, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And I think a push or something like that. But he makes sure he has everything. I like that dude. So it's the producer's like the fucking backbone, but like he understands every instrument and he plays the bass occasionally. But we went for their live when they were in Bangalore too. That was like it was like a dream come true because like I almost got into production is because like how he just gets these organic fucking percussions. And it was fun, right? Speaking about like things they're playing live, they have live vocalists, they have live like people who are playing the violin and like the whole bunch. Like the drummer was fucking live, he was killing it, right? So I mean, like you can go X and Y, and to that point, right? It was very funny that I got into electronics through production. Like as I told you, right? So as how
Yeah,
I
the
led
Arduino.
to how I led to production was I wanted to like play and I wanted to have complete control over like singing and like playing stuff live, right? And then I'm like, this is whole new fucking rabbit hole of like electronic music production and like holy fuck. And then I'm like, okay, let me make my own MIDI controller. And then I started fucking around with Arduino and IoT and stuff like that. Then I started like understanding because like it's neighboring field, right? You understand electronics because it's the same thing. Sine waves and frequencies and oscillators. You have a primer on electronics. Now you have
Yeah.
an intent into understanding I went down another rabbit hole of fucking digging down electronics books and like fucking how to make your own synthesizers and like make your own MIDI and shit like that. And now I find myself like more into this kind of scene. Okay, we have 30 seconds left, bro. Because
Cool.
it
We'll
automatically
wind up
shuts off
then.
on its own. I'll wind up with
Okay.
I'll start another line one and then we'll wind up.
Cool. All right.
Probably. So I think we have a 1 hour slot with Instagram, I guess.
Cool. I mean, you should probably save a small
Yeah, I'll save
slot where
this.
you can sort of edit music of the artist to the
Yeah, yeah,
start
yeah.
or